Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 of the major themes that are associated with tonight's powerful solar eclipse and new moon happening August 11th or 12th, depending on where you live, 2026. It's like a major cosmic reset is taking place, both on a collective level, but of course also with you. It's a time of breakthrough, a time of clarity, majorly a time of like not coming into your power, but realizing the power that you've always had. And it might cause you to rethink many parts of your life as you start to see your true worth, your true value, and your true power. You might start making some life altering decisions, but in the best possible way. So I am so excited for this and I can't wait to dive right in. Welcome to the channel, my friends, and I'll see you inside. The first theme is deciding for yourself who you are, how you're doing at life, being your own judge in a good way, rather than relying on externals, people's opinions, etc., to determine who you are, what your worth is. And you might start to become aware of how you've been doing that. And don't beat yourself up. Most of us, if we're honest, do that all the time. But it's not effective for helping us live the best life. It creates a lot of unnecessary turmoil. You know, me being a social media influencer, it's like, forget it. If I was to allow other people, which I have in the past, to determine my worth, I would go nuts. It reminds me of this funny scene from The Office. I know a lot of you probably have seen The Office. Well, this is like one of the last episodes in the whole series where this documentary became public, and one of the main characters, Andy, he was watching a YouTube video of people talking about the documentary where he was shown, and he was kind of going through the different comments on YouTube, and he was like, "This guy is awesome. He can sing well." And Andy was like, "Oh, great, feeling good." And then the next comment was like, "This guy is a butt." And you saw Andy get really upset. And then another comment came, and then he was happy again. And it's this kind of up and down roller coaster that many of us are on, just like Andy. That's a silly, facetious sort of example of that, but that's also a pretty clear example of how our inner mind has been conditioned to function. And it's understandable. If you look at humans compared to other living creatures on planet Earth, we have an extraordinarily long period where we are dependent on another person for safety, for survival. Unlike even other intelligent animals, we have a very complex social structure that is hardwired in our brains. We are wired to seek the approval from the outside in a survival-like way. And that's fine. We are communal beings. At the same time, what we're experiencing, many of us, is the waking up out of the completely unnecessary extent in which we do that. And it's gotten to a point where many of us are literally we're holding ourselves back from pursuing things that are authentic to us, that excite us, that are calling to us, because we've developed a very distorted self-image of ourselves based upon the inevitably fluctuating opinions of all the people we've come across in our life. And this cosmic reset that I speak of, this powerful eclipse, might be showing you the real detriment of doing that, and also giving you an opportunity to kind of step out of that. We don't have to do that. We can take the power back. And that's not at the expense of advancing in life. In fact, I believe the people who can really truly do that and really let their freak flag fly are going to be successful in an earthly way. And what comes to mind is this podcast I listened to a long time ago with James Hetfield. He's the lead singer of the band Metallica. Metallica is one of the most successful, long-standing rock bands throughout history, whether you like them or not. They've made quite a splash. They put out quite a few, hit albums. And this dude was on Joe Rogan, And Joe said, how do you do it? How are you still in the game? How have you been so successful? What makes you different? Those are the kind of questions thrown at him. And James Hetfield sort of humbly said, he said, we just create music that we like. We create music that we would like listening to, maybe perhaps before going to the gym on the car ride over there. What is not out there that we wish was, and we create that. They create for themselves. They are their own judge. And ironically, what I think has allowed to happen is the most authentic expression can come through without trying to fit it into any particular mold that they perceive to be necessary for success. It works. Authenticity works. Theme 2, as a result of theme 1, you might find that you are developing authentic, unshakable self-confidence. This doesn't always come easily. In fact, you know what comes to mind? I had a breakthrough around the first theme that led to self-confidence that I want to share with you because I think it's really relevant. It was several years back when I was running my first large Sedona retreat. Prior to that, I'd run many, maybe 10 or so, with about 20 to 25 people. But this one I'm talking about, it was with 100 people. And there was a stage. It was a whole different ball game. And I remember like about 2 days in, I was literally crumbling from the pressure. It was so much pressure. I was just so unfamiliar with that amount of energy. And I found myself kind of at a breaking point. I wasn't really happy with how I had been doing up until that point. And I was just really getting in my head. And, I think I caught word of a couple of people who were unhappy with it or something. And I started kind of spiraling. And I found myself just in my room right before going on stage. And I was like having like a mental crisis basically, but I had to go on stage like almost, within the hour basically. And I was like, you got to pull it together, bro. This is not good. But I couldn't get out of it. And what happened was I happened to have been gifted this tarot deck while I was there earlier on in the retreat. And out of like just desperation, I saw it there sitting there. So I grabbed the tarot deck and I opened it up, and it wasn't like a traditional tarot deck. It was just a bunch of kind of like positive statements and things like that. There was no correlation whatsoever to like the traditional tarot. So, but anyway, I was like, okay, this is all I got. So I flipped through the cards, and this one kind of popped out at me as it sometimes does when I'm using tarot. And it was this card that said, your confidence is soaring because you decide when you're doing a good job. I saw that card, and my God, it was so synchronistic. It was almost trippy. But that statement, for whatever reason, it sunk in. By actually applying theme 1, by being the deciding factor about how I'm doing, how you're doing, that can develop real confidence. Because I realized, you know what? I'm doing my best. I'm going out there and I'm nervous and I'm doing it anyway. I may have fumbled a couple of words here and there, but these people are getting a pretty good experience. I'm taking ownership of how I assess myself. And as a result of that, authentic confidence came through. Now, for you, you might notice this in your day-to-day life where there's some type of external thing that may have previously like caused you to doubt or to feel like uncertain, but you don't. You don't take the bait. You realize that I don't have to buy into that story. I don't have to buy into that idea, that opinion, that belief, that energy. I know myself. I decide. This happened just to me the other day. I'm in the process of launching a completely brand new business, which I'll talk to you about very soon. It has to do with certifying breathwork practitioners. Anyways, I was talking to some people, and I could tell they were like feeling skeptical about certain aspects of like the marketing. And I could tell they were like insecure and almost stressed about it. And the old me, oh my God, I would have been like, oh my God, I would have completely fed into it. Up until recently, I was almost surprised, but I noticed I didn't. I saw it and I was like, oh, that's not me. That's not this. That's not us. That's not this energy. I know what I'm dealing with here. And I don't have to be concerned whatsoever about that. And for the first time, I was able to stay in my frame, so to speak. So maybe you have an experience like that as well, where you catch some type of negative comment, some little seed of doubt, a friend even might cast in your lap there. And for the first time, you might find that, you know what, I don't need to take this on. You just toss it away. You can take what works, leave the rest. And this is extremely liberating and extremely important. I know so many of you who watch my videos, so many of you right now in this moment are gearing up, being trained for, equipped, transformed into one that serves in some way, creates, helps the planet, helps the people in some type of cool, creative way that you're probably excited about, but nervous also at the same time. A lot of times when people get to that sort of threshold, they start to realize how influenced they are by the people in their lives. And on one hand, it's super important to set boundaries, to keep those dreams to yourself sometimes, and not expect everybody to be encouraging and on board. It's just the harsh reality we live in. Many are not. So you might already be realizing just how important it is to kind of stay within your frame. But this beautiful new moon is like a surprise to me, because for a while I was just like, okay, I'm keeping my dreams to myself. I'm not sharing about this unless I know they're like solid people that know how to hold a dream. But now the game is kind of changing, and you might find it doesn't even matter so much anymore. It's just becoming this obvious thing. That's their opinion. That doesn't mean it's true. And you might find yourself not even needing to set as many boundaries, but just more so confident in who you are. As a result of this powerful inner metamorphosis I'm speaking about, you might find that you just make the natural choice to let go of outdated pursuits, projects, paths you were either going down or considering going down. You might see what is authentic and what is not. And it's hard sometimes. I remember I battled with this years ago when I was growing medical marijuana. I went back and forth so many times, because there were times where I realized I like doing this. I love growing weed. I find it fun and interesting and stimulating. I became decent at it. I'd love to go down and check on the plants and watch them grow. And I just liked it, man. But then there was this part of me that started to wake up that felt like I got to let this go. This is not, though it was once okay and fine, there's nothing wrong with it. There's a new part of myself emerging that it's time to move on from that and explore this new thing. But the new thing was so undeveloped. I was like, well, yeah, I'm down, but I'm going to hang on to the grow because I dig it until this new thing becomes something. And at that point, I started to have these sort of mixed experiences. There were occasions where I felt in alignment doing the grow, but most of the time I started to feel like I knew this was not something I meant to be doing. There was a lot of resistance, a lot of problems. It became actually quite challenging because of the extent of the problems that just were relentless. It was nonstop, problem after problem after problem. Like the universe was saying, you got to let this go. This is no longer your path. But for a while, I was actually confused. I thought, I really didn't know, honestly. I thought at times it is my path, and I just got to persist. But again, the part of me that had the times where I knew it wasn't the path, that began to kind of like take over. And eventually I let it go, and then the new thing opened up. That's kind of how it works sometimes. But you might find yourself at that type of crossroads, going in like a new direction or letting go of an old direction that you were stuck on for quite a while. But it's that type of time right now. We're not talking little micro adjustments, tweaks to your life. It's like soul level path redirectory is kind of taking place right now in a very good way. Because the interesting thing here is I was clinging to something that was cool. It hit certain boxes. I could mentally make a case for why it still has a place in my life. But little did I know the other thing was a bazillion times more fulfilling and exciting and enriching and better and high vibration and resonant. But right now what's happening is you are being given the confidence, given the clarity, so that you can do your new thing and experience the awesomeness that comes along with starting a new soul aligned chapter in your life. An interesting theme here, you might find yourself, like, I'll say, navigating, frustrating, authority type of energies that you disagree with. You might find that you're like waking up to some of the self-serving, controlling establishments in your life on the planet. And I know you've known this before. I'm sure you've gone down a rabbit hole or two exploring this, but you might find that you're seeing it even more clearly. Like, wow, things really are unfair for the people. And it's tough. I had this the other day. My wife woke up and she wanted to check her screen time on her phone. And she was like, oh, it's good. It's like 30 minutes a day. And I was like, I know that's completely wrong. I know her. There's no way it's that little. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah. It was because it was showing only on Sunday. And it was like in the morning on Sunday when she happened to look at it. So her average screen time was like just that of that particular morning. And I thought, okay, let's look back to the previous weeks, I said. And I looked into it. And you can't do that. They don't allow you to see the extent of your screen time, the Apple privacy policies. And I was like, that just kind of clicked with me, like, wow. And I looked it up. There's like this stipulation. You can probably maybe feel I'm like still mildly frustrated by it. But there's like this little loophole about protecting our privacy when meanwhile they are capturing an insane amount of data from us, probably listening to me as we speak. But when it comes to screen time, that's off limits. I just found it kind of silly. And it was really revealing of like how there are such powerful, influential, authoritative types of like monopolies on certain aspects of the human life that are being geared for their own personal, like the entity's self-interest at the expense of the people, at the detriment of the people. And anyway, I know all this, but I was shown my own little microcosmic example of that. And I was like upset. I was a little peeved, to be honest. That's what I mean, like navigating. Of course, being mad doesn't help. I used to go down those rabbit holes quite a bit, but I realized being angry at the establishment, being on guard against what Big Brother is going to do next, that doesn't help me. That just puts me in fear, puts me in anger, and makes me resentful. If I really don't like what I'm seeing, a better question to ask is, what can I do? What can you do? I'm sure there are parts of life that you are not in agreement with. Fine. But us bickering about it, that's not getting anybody anywhere. What can we do? What can you do? What can I do? That's the question. But anyways, it's worth mentioning because, it might be a theme for you. I'm curious if it is, in fact. Theme number 5, shifting from self-interest to collective happiness, empowerment, healing, unity, quality, etc. That's the beautiful thing that can come out of theme 4. On one hand, in order to get to that being an actual goal of yours, you sometimes have to kind of see what's going on. And it's a big pill to swallow at times. But you might honestly find yourself reorganizing your own personal plans around more of a collective vision you have for yourself and others. Like, what can you do with what you know, what you've been through, where you are now, that can help the situation in the most powerful way? You might already be asking yourself that kind of question. You might be seeing how certain things, like for me with the grow operation, there's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't really helping anybody. I didn't even have real medical marijuana patients. I was just selling it to my friends legally, basically. So it's not like that was okay. It's good to have your hobbies, but when my whole life's work is going into something, when there's this other option like YouTube for me, coaching, it's like the soul is going to try to help you create more of a win-win. But what you might find is that you see now the logic in it. You might find yourself less reluctant to pursue this sort of collective purpose of yours and see it as something that the real you actually wants and prefers to do, which is beautiful because that creates a real partnership with your own personal plans and the will of the divine. And that's how big things can happen through you. They can be birthed through you when you're a genuine co-creator. All the different influential businesses I've created over the years, for example, none of them have almost like been a choice even. It's been like an inspired, out of the blue, organic idea that's come up from, I don't know where, honestly. There's different theories, but it comes from either like a deep part of my psyche or the collective or something. Like something wants to be created. And I had the option to help. It's a very different way of going about life. And the cool thing is, whether you become this grand success that everyone knows and adores, not everyone's going to do that. It's not important. When you are living your life in alignment with that divine will, you are good. You are supported. There's a genuine awareness of actual support, more synchronicity, more like help from odd, unexpected ways comes when you're sort of a genuine servant of the divine. You'll live the best life possible. All of your preferences and things will come to you in the best possible way. The only thing that you'll have to let go of maybe is the misperception of what you think you want, what you've been taught to believe you deserve, what you've been taught to believe is important. You might find you're kind of wiping the slate clean and coming up with your own value system, or more so realizing the innate value system that's always been there, but has been covered up by all the nonsense, all the conditioning, all the trauma, all the pain, all the illusion, all the unconsciousness, all the limiting beliefs start to be seen through. And what's left is really who you are and who you've always been as a spirit, as an authentic primordial essence that has always been here and will always exist. You might start to come into a genuine contact with that. And then from there, from that vantage point, you might be making some changes, reorganizing some things, but again, in the best possible way.